Good morning. Thank you for tuning in and welcome to the Unity Online experience. It's always a joy to be able to share this space this morning with all of you and our Senior Minister, Neusom Holmes.
Thank you, Anna. We are happy to be here, and we're here and keep doing this because of your support. So I want to thank you, before we even get going, for all that you have done for us over the last years. And this has been one of our favorite things, is to realize that when Anna and I do this, we know we're reaching someone because you're reaching back.
And it allows us to keep reaching so many others. So thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts for your support, your love, and your prayers. And what we're doing this upcoming week and today?
Well, we're doing the hero's journey. We're continuing this series, and we're exploring today what's it like to be called and to answer that call.
And before we get to that, let's just get going with some beautiful music from our musicians.
Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun. I said, it's all right. Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. I said, it's all right. Little darling, the smiles returning to their faces. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. I said, it's all right. Sun, 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 here it comes. Sun, 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 here it comes.
Today we continue with the hero's journey. And today we're beginning with the first section of the hero's journey, which is called the call. Now the call has several aspects to it, but you've got to know that the call is really asking you to come out of what is comfortable and to move into something that you don't know about yet. That is the call. It's a risk. It's taking a chance. It's becoming more than you were before the call, so that you might bring something back for your life and the world around you. Now, if many of us have had calls that we found easy to accept, perhaps you were always eager to go to kindergarten, or you were eager to become a parent, Perhaps those calls were easy for you, or maybe you were reluctant. Now, that's part of the tradition in the hero's story, that the hero is a bit reluctant to go. When I think about someone who exemplifies this reluctance, I think of Jonah. So the story of Jonah and the whale, many people know that he was swallowed by a whale, but before he was swallowed by a whale, the story goes like this. God tells Jonah to go to Nineveh, the big city in the world back then, and tell them they were going to be destroyed because they were sinning, and God was upset with them. Now, Jonah didn't want to do it. So instead of going toward Nineveh, he went away from it, got on a boat, went the wrong direction. What happened next was God made a storm. The storm was so violent that everyone was praying. Jonah's asleep in the bottom of the boat. The captain comes to him and says, "Pray to your God. We are praying to our gods. You pray to your God. Let's see if we can get out of this." And when he does, he realizes that the storm is to convince him he's gone the wrong way. So he goes up and he tells the captain that his God controls the sea and the land. And the sailors, meanwhile, are casting lots to see who's the problem person on the boat. What's causing this? A form of divination. So essentially, an intervention happens, a divine intervention happens, and they look at Jonah and say, "You're the one. What have you done?" And he explains to them, he's running away, etc. He says, "Take me and throw me into the sea." Well, they don't want to kill him. So they try to get home without killing him, but they can't. And so eventually they decide to throw him into the sea to save everyone else. That's all before he gets swallowed by the whale. That's all because he refused the call. He went through much more difficulties than if he had just headed out toward Nineveh and done as he was called to do. It was his refusal that led to more difficult things. It's been my experience, too, that when you have a true call and you don't honor it, it is not very pleasant. The knock is light at first. Often you may not be sure you're really called to do it. It could be doubt. You could be doubt that you're being called, and it could be doubt that you could do it. But that doubt can often be erased by something making it so uncomfortable not to do it that you just give in and do it. It's hard to know what your call might be. I've had several calls in my life, one of which was I just jumped on right away. When I was a kid, when I was about a freshman in college, I fell in love for the first time. And the woman I fell in love with was also, I noticed that she was enamored with her next door neighbor. And he was on an adventure sailing and racing sailboats in the southern oceans. And she was talking about him, and she said, "I just love adventure." Well, up until that point, I had been working in a brick factory in my summers between school. And I decided I was going to do something different. And that's when I decided to be a river guide. I called a neighbor of mine, and she wrote a letter of recommendation. I got on an airplane. It was a bit of an adventure, kind of an initiation just by getting on this plane, flying standby with one day to get there. A miraculous story I may tell you more about later. But I eventually made it. I became a river guide. And then I became an international river guide. And then on it went until about 10 years later, I actually ran into her and I said, "Hey, I want to tell you something. You said this." It's now 10 years later. I've been a guide around the world. And it turns out I lived out your call to be an adventurer. Just to finish the story, she married the guy next door that she was, so it didn't really work for me in that sense, but it did lead me into a life of something greatly more expansive than I had been in. I met people who were doing amazing things, who themselves were amazing people in many ways, people who had fabulously exceeded my life of up until that point. It was really quite marvelous. It's part of the reason I'm here today is a series of events that happened after that. And so I just want to say, Sometimes we will answer the call. Yes, we just say, yes, I want to do it. That's exactly what I want to do. And others will delay, and other times we may refuse altogether. But I have the feeling that if you refuse, it will be like Jonah. Things will get worse. They won't get better, they'll get worse. And that's how you know you really were called. As to my life, I could just say it happened again when in my late 20s, about when I turned 30, I thought I should be a minister. Well, I didn't think I should be a minister. I thought I should be a spiritual leader, but I didn't think I was adequate for it. There was an enormous amount of self-doubt going on. And so I turned in different directions to deepen in my own psychological process, my own spiritual practices and stuff like that, always avoiding really taking up that mantle with assurance that I could do it. I lived in doubt for 10 years as I did my prep. But that worked really in my favor. And I realized that one of the things about these calls is that even if you go the wrong way, this will actually be just a longer way, but not the wrong way. That your call will get you even if you don't get it. Even if you don't know why or how, it will eventually train you, prepare you, deliver you to the threshold of doing the job with or without your cooperation. And so I think that's one of the things you can trust. That if you don't feel like you're on a hero's journey right now, you may just not be noticing what you've already said yes to, which has already taken you out of your comfort zone, pushed you beyond where you were before. And if you aren't currently in it, I have the feeling that you will not be left alone. That you really will never be left alone. That the world, that God, that the nature of the universe, whatever causes this patterning to happen, will tug you out of your complacency. Either eagerly or with great reservation. It will tug you out and put you in the place of the challenge that is before you. And it will not rest until it happens, but you will not be there alone. The story goes that there will be, if you refuse or if you're not sure, there typically is a divine intervention. Now in Jonas's case, they were casting lots. And they found that he was the one. That was the divine intervention there, that the nature of nature could say, this is the problem. But in your life, it may be a friend or a mentor. It may be a dream you have or a vision, or you just may feel that the word, however you interpret the word, is calling you. And it will not leave you alone. So if you were destined to be a teacher or destined to be a writer, or maybe your calling was to be a mother or a father, you will hear this call and it will not let you go. It will invite you to go deeper into the adventure of that unyet realized potential. So if you can take it, if you can know if it's really yours and you take it, I believe your path will be made easier for you. You will find that doors open in ways that are unexpected. That, as some poet said, when we take a step in the direction of our destiny, doors open in ways unexpected. All you have to do is begin. All you have to do is begin. And in beginning, you create a yes for the world, the universe, or God to follow, and to add to you all that you need for your journey. One of the things about the attitude of being on a quest, to being on a hero's journey, to take your life as an adventure rather than a burden, to take your life as though you were called to something in it. It liberates and energizes who you really are. I want to read you a quote. This is a quote by Thomas Stark. The ultimate task is to get people to see their own lives in terms of the hero's journey and become heroes themselves. Imagine a heroic world where everyone is a hero. It would be much better than the coward's world humanity currently inhabits. People must be able to see where they themselves are on that great journey. Are they stuck? Are they going backwards? What's blocking their progress? Society should be about making everyone a hero, a god, and showing them how to do it. We start out from the archetypal level of the story and end by teaching philosophy, science, and mathematics. Things succeed when everyone gets the message fast. It resonates with them, and they go out and spread it on their own initiative. This is the call of the hero's journey. And it is one that we're doing this series so that you might recognize who you really are and not be fooled by the feelings that often accompany the journey itself, the feelings of doubt, of fear, of reticence. That instead you begin to identify that you are a hero in your own story. And your life matters because as you become who you can become as that hero, you inspire others, you give permission to others to emulate what you are doing and to become themselves. And when we are surrounded by people who are living with verve and excitement about their life, who are becoming the hero of their own life through the doubts and the fears and the struggles and the setbacks and the blockages, when we do that, we make a path for everyone. Now, last week when I was talking about this, I was using Joseph Campbell's explanation of the hero's journey, which he garnered through studying the stories of the world, both ancient and modern. And he found this particular pattern, and the first of the pattern is the call, which is what we're talking about today. And I think many of you who are listening to this have heard the call, especially around spirituality. And as I said, you can be doing several different calls at the same time. You can be doing the call of family and also the call of spirit. You can be doing kindness work or helpfulness to others as in a heroic way, and also learning to pay your own bills. You can have more than one hero story going at the same time. And I'd like to speak briefly about a nuance of the spiritual heroic journey. Now, a long time ago, quite a long time ago, there was a split in the world between Eastern and Western thought. And in the origin, originally there was just one. It was, if you think of this as the development of the religious stories that we have based our religions on, there was basically a monomyth at the beginning, but it began to fracture and go in different ways. And the pivot point geographically for this was, say, Iran. And that which was east of Iran, say China and India and the points east of there, what happened after this divide was that the East began to stick with essentially this Bronze Age idea that everything in the world is eternal, in a sense, that life, death happens over and over again. And the cycle of life and death is eternal, and that nothing is lost, it just keeps recycling. There's not a direction to it. There was not a beginning, and there will not be an end. This is just a cycle of life, death, and rebirth. That idea has one thing else in it, in its core, which is to really do the hero's journey in that cycle, it is to come to a deeper understanding that all this is going on, and in the centermost is awareness itself, is the consciousness, is the I, or is the not I, whichever you want to call it, the non-self. In that middle, it is all happening, but the quest is not to create something so much as to see through the illusion that all this display is just a display of one thing, which is doing it all. To realize essentially what we would call God here in the West, that Tao, that thing in the middle, to realize that is the hero's journey. To identify with it, to shift your identity from something that is birthed and dies and is reborn to the thing in the middle. That's the quest of the East. In the West, we took time as beginning. And since time begins, it was started by someone. It is started by the Creator. In the East, the Creator and the created are intertwined, are the same, really. In the West, you have a Creator and you have creation. You have God and you have man. And in those philosophies that come from the West, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, we are looking for a relationship with the divine. We're not looking to be at one with the divine, but to be in relationship. And the relationship that we do is one of reverence and respect, one of honoring and love. It is doing the will of the divine. It is becoming a good partner with the divine, but not becoming the divine. Now, when I was in India last, I went to Oneness University, and they at Oneness University essentially had intrinsically this goal of revelation of your true self as the God also. That your deepest nature is the same as the divine creator, because the creator is expressed as you as well. And they were realizing that as many Westerners came and did their program, many Westerners were not wanting to go there because we are steeped in this tradition of relational aspect with the divine. It is a very different thing we're looking for. We don't want to be Jesus. We want to have a relationship with Jesus. We don't want to be God. We want to have an experience of God's help and support and giving back into that. And I think part of the confusion of the path that many of us are on is it's not clear that which one of these we're on. We talk about here at Unity of the Triangle about awakening to our divine nature. And we also talk about being a heroic creator in our own life, doing our life, making success in our life. And so unity has been a blend of these two main ideas. And it's part of the reason it's kind of hard to describe unity in simple two-sentence phrases, because we take the Christian tradition over here of being time-oriented in a linear form of time, and over here we have a circular form of time. Here we have being at one with the divine, being the same as, and here we have a form of holidays and prayers that come from the Christian tradition that drive us out into a separation of the two. It's part of the reason why we do affirmative prayer, is that it's more like this, even though it sounds a bit like that. It's part of the blending that we're doing here. And if you felt confused, I could well understand why, because you're doing both world systems at the same time. Perhaps that will help, because part of the confusion of the hero's journey as a seeker is knowing exactly what you're trying to do. Knowing where you want to go will be helpful. Perhaps you want to have a relationship with the divine, or perhaps you want to experience yourself as the divine. Either one is a perfectly heroic task, worthy of what you do. And when you do it, you will bring something back to the community which heals and strengthens everyone. And your life will be lifted up too. However, I'm pretty sure it will not be without struggle, challenge, setbacks, defeats, and your own victories. So take heart. If you've been confused, I think I could understand why. We are on this journey together, and I hope you will continue to examine your life as a hero's journey so that you will go through it with courage, with strength, and with the belief that in the end, you as a hero will find your boon and be a blessing to yourself and to others. Let's continue the journey together. Namaste.
There's a light in the darkness, though the night is black as my skin. There's a light burning bright, showing me the way. But I know where I've been. There's a cry in the distance. It's a voice that comes from deep within. There's a cry asking why. I pray the answer's up ahead. 'Cause I know where I've been. There's a road we've been traveling, lost so many on the way, but the riches will be plenty, worth the price, worth the price we had to pay. There's a dream in the future. There's a struggle that we have yet to win. And there's pride in my heart, 'cause I know where I'm going. Yes, I do. And I know where I've been. There's a road we must travel. We must make. Oh, but the riches to sit still would be a sin. Lord knows I know where I've been. I give thanks to my God, 'cause I know where I've been.
As we begin to meditate, let's start by adjusting our bodies and allowing our minds to begin to quiet by paying attention to the breath. We don't need to control it right now. We're just going to watch and see how it feels to come in and go out. The beauty of doing this is it activates a calming mechanism in the mind and lets the body feel itself disengage from any sense of tension or fear. Just begin to feel the body through the breath. Let the mind ride on the breath like a boat on the ocean going up and down with the waves. Sometimes you know your call by your wants and desires, by a sense that something is missing and you want it. Sometimes that want is in the pit of the stomach, and sometimes it's in the heart, maybe even the throat. Sense into your body or into the core of your being and ask the question, what is next for me? What is it I want, need, or I'm called to do? Let us also ask as we inquire, is this want, desire, or call that we think we feel, is it in my highest good? Is it in the good of the community? Is it something of value in the progress of my existence? We let the answers arise. And if they don't arise, we wait. We stay with the breath. We don't press for an answer, it will come. Who am I supposed to be? What is the next adventure calling for me? Remember, all things work together for good for those who love God. So let us turn some attention now to our hearts that we might love the world that we live in and the divine presence that is the world and transcends the world. Begin by loving in all directions without concern or conditions. There is a phrase, waiting on the Lord, and we wait for inspiration, for clarity, and for the fullness of life to make itself known. Let us sit together in holy silence as we do so.
Thank you very much, Neusom. Now we have a clear idea of what the process entails, which is essentially a departure of our known world into the journey. It does involve refusal, acceptance, but we are already in it.
It is true. And as we continue this journey, I would like you to keep this thought with you. This is a quote by Jacob Norby. The great mission of our day is not conquering the sea or space, disease or tyranny. The grand quest which calls to the hero in every one of us is to become fully alive, to stand up and claim your birthright, which is inner freedom, love, and radiant purpose. By fulfilling this, we transform the world.
So let's do the staying alive, staying alive. Ooh, ooh. And to stay alive and keep it going, we're going to have closure with today's service with Mimi and one of her heartfelt prayers. Thank you so much for sharing this time with us, and have a beautiful week.
If you would like our Sacred Prayer Circle to pray over names that you have submitted, you can put names in this prayer box in the lobby here if you come in person, or you can go online, unitytriangle.org, click on the black box that says Prayer and Meditation, scroll down where you see a prayer request online. So now let's pray over these names. There is no place where God is not. As we embody this truth, we deeply feel our connection to the divine and to our own divinity. This heartfelt connection empowers us to realize potentials within us that we may not have previously envisioned. We come alive with possibilities. With God as our helpmate, we move beyond fears or resistance and become aware of what our hearts are longing for. We give our heart's desires a voice and allow our desires to percolate and come forth into action. No challenge is too great when we remember we are a child of God and all things work together for our highest and best good. Every experience is an opportunity for new expressions of our truest divine nature. We feel an excitement and newfound energy as we jump into activities where we learn and grow and expand our awareness. We hold this intention for every name in this prayer box, that they too come alive with wonder as they remember all things are possible with God. May they feel a hopefulness that new adventures and new ways of being are always available when we allow God's wisdom and grace into our hearts. Our hearts sing with joy and gratitude for all that is and all that can be, and so we let it be. Amen.
The light of God surrounds us.
I am the light of God.
The love of God enfolds us.
I am the love of God.
The power of God protects us.
I am the power of God.
And the presence of God watches over us.
I am the presence of God.
Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.